Hey everybody, I hope everyone's having a great Sunday Eve. I'd be working on the MMT Trader report, so that'll be coming out tomorrow late afternoon. But I wanted to make this video because I got to address something. I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And you hear a lot of people say, oh, I know what the big boys are doing, and the big boys are manipulating the market, and the big boys do this, and the big boys do that. Well, let me tell you something, folks. There are no big boys, at least not in the context of the way these people are using the term. There are big institutions that handle lots of money, that manage lots of money. There are some big hedge funds out there, okay? But all of the big boys that people talk about, they basically struggle to keep pace with the market averages. They're no smarter than anybody else. As a matter of fact, they are dumber, way dumber than most ordinary investors. They have gotten everything wrong consistently. And the proof of the matter is that an entire industry has been created, which is these index funds, which do nothing more than track the market averages because the big boys suck. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Okay, they got everything wrong. They got everything wrong. And a lot of big pension funds are pulling out of hedge funds, asset managers, the big asset managers, the big money managers. Losers. Losers. Now, just a little bit about me, if you don't know me, and if you think, when you say things like that about the big boys, it really just exposes, you're foolish, you're silly, okay? You don't know what you're talking about. I spent many years, I was a member of 4 exchanges, I traded on 4 floors, all right? I managed money for one of the biggest hedge fund guys in the world. I traded the proprietary account of a major global bank, but all that's irrelevant. I'm not here to brag about myself. I don't care. My results speak for themselves. Really what I wanted to focus in on is this nonsensical statement or concept, this fantasy concept of the big boys. Yes, they manage a lot of money. BlackRock manages what, 3 trillion. All right. Some of these big hedge fund guys, like what's his name? I forget his name, but they're in there. They could be in the over 100 billion. But if you're stating the term big boys as in these guys know something, they don't. They don't. They all bought into the wrong thing about the Fed cutting rates and 0% interest rates and QE going to be hyperinflation, and they bought gold and they were looking for an interest rate spike. There's no big boys. Let me tell you, there's no big boys. Now, I've seen trades that pushed markets around. Most of the time, that was because these guys had to get out of something that wasn't working for them. All right. I've also seen trades from some big players that temporarily, for a very short period of time, affected market prices. They might squeeze one market to try to make a move in another market, and they'll take advantage of that. But it's very fleeting, very fleeting. So when you use this term, if you think you're smart and you know things and you try to present yourself like some real smart, savvy guy, and you come out with this stupid thing about the big boys, you just look silly. Let me tell you, you just look silly. There are no big boys in the sense of how you are saying it. There are big boys, big institutions. By the way, if you want to talk about one of the biggest, right, Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs, if you think they trade, they're market makers, okay? They have clients, they make markets, they pad in a profit for themselves on the bid and the offer side. If they're doing a deal, they'll pad in some profit on the deal, some spread, okay? It's, in terms of their own trading, have you ever seen the forecasts and the predictions of Goldman Sachs? A couple of years ago, I think they had 9 predictions and 7 of them were completely wrong. Okay, so that's a terrible batting average. That is a terrible batting average. Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, these guys, They make money because they are market makers. When I first started out as a floor trader on the knife, I was a market maker. So I would buy at the bid and sell at the offer all day long. Okay, I'd take one tick on every trade. And worst case, I'd scratch, break even. But then when that paper dried up, this was in the early 80s, a lot of that business went out to Chicago, ultimately to the S&Ps. We had to guess, we had to figure out which way the market was going. So my whole game had to change. The big boys don't play direction. They're market makers. So that's a totally different thing. Don't get that, mixed up. Don't conflate the two because they're not the same. But I hate to bust your bubble. All these guys who come on here talking about, hey, you don't know what the big boys are doing. I know exactly what the big boys are doing. I know exactly what they're doing. They're doing the wrong thing every single time. You could see these guys. You could listen to these guys. You could follow what they're doing. I know what they're doing. They're all wrong. The hedge funds are terrible, terrible performers. And if these guys are billionaires, they're billionaires for one reason and one reason alone. They've managed to convince large institutions to give them lots of money, and they get a 2% management fee, and if they make 20% of the profit. So basically, if they make a kind of the same thing as a risk-free return, if they make a few percent, 3% or 5% on whatever, $20 billion that they manage, and they get 20% of that, that adds up. That's big money. But don't think they're billionaires because they're savvy in what they're doing. And usually when they get something right, it's not because they're big boys and they manipulated anything. It's because either they have inside information, and we see this all the time, these guys getting busted for inside information, or they were just pure lucky. I mean, John Paulson, nobody knew who John Paulson was until that subprime trade where he went to Goldman Sachs and he said, make me an instrument designed to blow up, and then go out and sell it to some unwitting party, which Goldman gladly did and admitted to fraud. Okay, so they cheat. So don't tell me, don't come on here like you're so smart. Mike, I don't follow you because I know what the big boys are doing. You're an idiot when you say that. There are no big boys. Okay, I'm a big boy. I am a big boy. There are no big boys. All right, so just get over it. You're in a stupid, when you say things like that, you put yourself in such a small little place. Like you are beholden to people who know nothing. That's how stupid you are when you say things like that. There are no big boys, okay? I'm the big boy.